is the right time to stand up for freedom? Could it be when you start to feel creating children who'll inherit the pain and the debt of this nation and be slaves to the banks that cause hyperinflation, who are masters of commerce, lies, and bad legislation? Whoa, if you looked in the eyes of 1,000 young children through fences of razors, their innocence stolen as the red flag of tyranny flies in the open, is that when you finally notice? Whoa, but I'm only a stranger here. I'm a long, long way from my home, and they say I can't change all the things I find strange, for what can one man do alone?
Welcome back to the Liberty Test, where we take the government at its word before we put its policies to the test. I'm your host, Dan Castello, and I'm joined by returning panelists Rose Leatherman, Karyn Thompson, and Robert Schuon. Also tonight, we have a very special guest joining our panel. Larry Sharpe, the Libertarian Party candidate for governor of New York, is here to help us examine what might be the most stark example of New York's hostility towards the Bill of Rights that we've covered yet. So, Larry, thanks for being here. Now, tonight's case is the Dexter Taylor case. He was a lifelong New Yorker in a profoundly troubling conflict with New York State over its gun laws. A 54-year-old black software engineer from Brooklyn, Taylor is a well-spoken and obviously intelligent man. He graduated from the prestigious Stuyvesant High School, then briefly studied biomedical engineering at Johns Hopkins, and eventually taught himself to code, which then became his career. He has an online presence as a conservative commentator under the name Carbon Mike, which includes a YouTube channel that, among other things, critiqued COVID lockdowns as early as April 2020, which makes him pretty based in my book. Now, as if that weren't enough to get a man on the wrong side of the state, Taylor, who was fascinated with firearms since childhood, took up gunsmithing during the government's draconian COVID lockdowns as a hobby. He spent about $40,000 legally purchasing gun parts online using his own credit card and home address to build over a couple of years a total of 13 of what the state calls ghost guns, mostly AR-15 style rifles and Glock style pistols, all of course without serial numbers. Now, he never fired them, never took them outside his home, never offered them for sale. He had a total of about 50 rounds of ammunition, which isn't even enough to practice with. There's no record of him having any violent intent, and he had no criminal record. Taylor was even in the process of learning how to legally obtain his FFL and become a professional gunsmith. He had ideas for products to sell to law enforcement and the military. But on April 6th, 2022, at 6 a.m., a joint ATF-NYPD elite SWAT team broke down Taylor's door and arrested him at gunpoint. The result? A 10-year sentence in maximum security prison, longer than many violent offenders receive in New York. Now, key point here, how did the government find out about Taylor's hobby? Well, apparently the ATF just asked gun parts manufacturers across the country to hand over their customer lists. And they did. Taylor himself explained it from prison. Quote, ATF has been driving search warrants around the country by going up to parts manufacturers and saying, run those lists for me, end quote. This wasn't a targeted investigation based on a tip or suspicious behavior. The ATF conducted a nationwide dragnet, mining through purchase records of legal transactions from legal businesses, looking for people in restrictive states who'd bought enough parts to assemble complete firearms. Taylor was flagged because he used his own credit card and home address. He wasn't hiding anything because he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. No warrant for his purchase records, no individualized suspicion, just bulk surveillance of commercial transactions and then cherry-picking targets for prosecution. But hold on. New York DA Eric Gonzalez said, quote, "Ghost guns are a threat to New Yorkers everywhere, and my office is working tirelessly with our partners in law enforcement to stop their proliferation. Today's sentence should send a message to anyone who, like this defendant, would try to evade critically important background checks and registration requirements to manufacture and stockpile these dangerous weapons. Every ghost gun we take off the street is a win for public safety." End quote. Now, Taylor, for his part, maintains that he did nothing wrong and was merely exercising his constitutional rights. During his trial, Judge Abina Darke allegedly told Taylor's defense attorney, quote, "Do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here, so you can't argue Second Amendment. This is New York." End quote. So let that sink in. A judge in an American courtroom told a defendant he couldn't reference the Bill of Rights in his own defense. I could go on. There's more to the case, but the more I researched it, the more egregious the government's actions look, and I don't want to get too worked up this early in the show. So, Larry, you're a special guest. I'm going to put you on the spot first before I let anybody else jump in. Calm me down. Give me the good faith, best case, steelman argument as to why New York's prosecution of Taylor is really a reasonable government action.
And can everybody unmute, please?
Look, the government's going to tell you something very important, and that is the government's job is to defend the common good, common defense we're trying to achieve. Why in the world would you, as a citizen of New York, be happy with somebody putting together parts for firearms in their home? Why would you be okay with that? There are children around. There are family members around. They could touch it and deal with it and put things together and harm themselves. Ammunition is there. It's the same as you saying you're okay with someone having a meth lab in your apartment building. The meth lab could explode, harm people, toxic fumes, all these things. This is what matters. The state has to protect the common good. You can't do that on your own. You wouldn't go into his home because you'd be afraid. That's why you require agents to go in. They didn't know. He had bought all these firearms. What was he hiding? Why did he not go through the proper forms to get the background check? Why didn't he do that? What was he hiding? Well, maybe he didn't know. He should have known. He was in with dangerous material, dangerous things that could harm others. Other people could be harmed by this. Therefore, the government must go in and take care of this. Ghost guns are used in many crimes. We want to make sure that we are able to put criminals behind bars. They don't get away with things. This is a way of putting criminals behind bars. He did something silly. He has a teenage daughter. What was he thinking? There were children involved here, minors involved here. He is obviously a bad guy who wasn't thinking, who didn't care about his neighbors. Luckily, the government came in to protect you and those around him from someone who was so obviously uncaring with these dangerous materials.
So the old society was the victim here.
No, his daughter, not society. He had a minor daughter who was a child, not society, his child.
He also had an upstairs neighbor who they wouldn't let testify during the case.
Upstairs neighbor who might have had a problem.
Yeah, what if a gun went off and went through the floor?
What if he had done that? As he's putting these together, he had ammunition there. What as he was putting it together, that gun had gone off, Rose? What if it had?
They were just hanging in the closet like suits.
You brought up an important point, actually, about why didn't he go through the proper channels? So from what I understand about the case,
you just dodged my dangerous thing, didn't you? You just dodged it because you know I was right.
Clearly, yes, clearly. He was just so irresponsible, not looking out for the well-being of his neighbors. It's not like criminal liability is a separate crime from it's not like being criminally negligent is a separate crime from simply owning something. No, clearly we can't trust people not to be negligent, so we just have to ban things outright.
Not with things like meth labs. This is the equivalent of a meth lab here. Are you saying you'd be okay with someone making a meth lab in your apartment building? Thank you. I'm right here.
So about the having
you
or
you
trying
sure
to
you
go
want me
through
to steelman this, Dan? I'm gonna steelman this really good. Like I'm good at this. You
trying to go through the proper channels. It sounds like he actually did originally try to go through the proper channels. However, New York State several years back changed its laws so that there was a quota on how many people could become licensed to do what he was doing. Now,
Correct.
if everyone is doing things by the books, they're not putting anyone in danger, they're doing things correctly, how exactly can you have a quota? Like, isn't that unfair? If everyone is doing things correctly, why should they just not get the license? It sounds like they're setting people up to break the law.
No, they could get the license, but he didn't do that. He could have gotten it. And look, the reason why you do these quotas is because there's only a certain amount of inspectors the state can have, right? The state can only have X number of inspectors. They can't have 1,000 inspectors. They have X number of inspectors. So you have enough licenses so the inspectors can do their job to keep you safe so that people don't. I mean, it's an apartment building, Rose. This is not his own home. This is an apartment building. I don't know why you don't care about the people, your neighborhood. You don't care about your community?
I said it's for the children.
It's for the community,
Just
Robert.
think of the
community.
children.
Well, I found a quote from Professor Gloria J. Brown Marshall from John Jay College about this. She says, quote, "The Second Amendment allows for the right to bear arms, but that is not an unlimited, unrestricted right. The right to bear arms, like every right within the Constitution, has to be balanced out with public safety, balanced out with the community interest," end quote.
See?
Sounds
I'm
like
right
a
here.
funny 'cause
giant loophole to be able to restrict people's rights because
Well, hold on,
that's
hold
pretty
on.
subjective.
They're not
What's
taking
the
away
common
guns.
interest?
They just want them to be
Common sense gun
registered and
control.
serialized, right?
Yeah,
So,
common sense gun control.
even libertarians believe that people should be held accountable for their actions, right? So
Thank
if
you.
I'm cleaning a gun and I accidentally shoot my kid and, that gun was not serialized, how would they know it was my gun?
See?
Probably because someone saw you outside cleaning your gun and saw it go off, and you have witnesses. You have somebody's
What if
Ring
you don't?
doorbell camera.
What if you don't? See, this is the issue. People like you, Rose, who are so worried about being selfish, you don't care about your community at all. You are so selfish, you don't care about your own community. Your right to own a gun and to go and shoot people is more important than the safety of the people around you. I don't know why you're so mean. I don't know why you're so selfish.
Well, I mean, yes, I do happen to care about the well-being of my family if someone breaks into my home
Clearly
and I need to
not.
defend myself. Okay, what if the government says, no, I'm sorry, we can't give you a gun license because we've already met our quota and we don't want to have to hire new people because we'd rather give ourselves raises. So you're just gonna have to go without owning a gun, okay? But hey, if somebody breaks into your house, you can always call 911 and we'll try to be there within the next few hours so we can
You
write a
can
report
always
about it.
retreat. Why do you want to kill people who you don't know why they're breaking into your house? You have no idea why.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah.
You
why
could
do
just
I
retreat.
Why do I value
So
my
what you're saying
property
is,
over
yes,
somebody's
your
life? Clearly, I
property
should
is
just
more
run.
important than
I should just grab
your
my
property.
kids and evacuate
Yes.
the house.
You're telling me that your property is more valuable than a life. Look how selfish you are. Your property
just like Daniel
is
Penny
more
then, right?
important than a life. You are selfish.
You're trying to protect people from. It's again, the New York State has a very weird take on
You're shooting them,
this.
Robert. What are you telling me? You're advocating her shooting people.
First
You're
of all,
not
there was
protecting
no
people.
shooting.
You're shooting them.
So see, that's the problem. Is there's using the straw man argument because no one was shot, no one was injured, okay, and this person was making this for their own.
No.
Personal
Rose just said
edification.
she wants to shoot a guy who comes into her house. That's what she said. And I'm saying she is deciding that her property is more valuable than a life.
Right,
How selfish
I'm
can
being
you
very
get?
selfish. I now realize because I
How
want to be able to
selfish can you
defend
get?
myself. I care more about my Second Amendment rights
You
and my
can just
fundamental human right
You
to
just
self-defense
Yes.
than I care about
You
owning
guys
a
are-
gun safely and having it in doing it by the books, getting the correct permits, and also, yeah,
Following the law
as Larry
is
said, I
terrible for
can
you. Don't follow
clearly
the
just
law.
retreat if I can't have a gun to defend myself. I can just retreat from my house anyway.
You guys are missing a key
Doesn't
thing
want
here,
to
though.
follow the law and thinks that property is more valuable than human life. And you want me to follow you, Rose?
But
You
you
don't
guys are
wanna
missing
follow the
a
law.
key point about expertise here, though. Without the government licensing gunsmiths and gun owners, how will we know that they have the proper credentials?
100%. You guys don't care about safety either? Nothing. You
No.
guys don't care about safety? You are all selfish. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yep. I guess that wraps it up for the podcast. I mean, the government's case is airtight.
Airtight.
I now see the error of my ways, and I am now a
Airtight.
statist. Gonna
Thank
go
you.
register as a Democrat tomorrow.
I think I'm
As
going to
you
go
should.
pay extra taxes as penance.
Yes, I'm
I'm
going
gonna
to
go get all my guns out of the bottom of the lake now and register them.
As you should. As you should. As you should. There we go. Now,
right.
obviously, I'm teasing you guys, but I do this because you know that I go up against this all the time.
Mhm.
I'm good at this because I go up against it constantly. This is how I'm the guy who goes into the cities and I talk about the Second Amendment. That's what I talk about. And I get what I just gave you. I get that all the time.
Right.
That's why I'm good at it, because I debate this shit all the time. Clearly, nothing I said I believe, obviously, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying
you
it
have to
just-
be able to understand the other side's arguments. Or you,
Correct.
And it's always,
Yes.
why does your right to own guns take priority over our children's lives?
Yes.
How many children have to die before you give up your guns?
And the point that a lot of libertarians don't get is that rhetoric matters, right? Emotion matters when it comes to voting. When it comes, emotion matters. And libertarians go, well, this, well, that, and you have to deal with emotion. When you see me deal with emotion, in this case, what I would have said, Rose, if I were you, right? In this, if it hit me that way, I would say, no, I'm not being selfish. I'm making it an equalizer. Women are so often in a spot where they find themselves feeling intimidated, where they find themselves feeling weak, where they have to run. And they shouldn't have to run because they're a woman. They should be able to equalize situation, and a firearm allows that.
Oh,
so I'm
the
about
first to
equal
say,
rights.
yes. I go
I'm
up against
about
this all the
but
time.
you didn't say that, Rose, and I'm telling you that's what you should have said. That was
I
the
was
appropriate
kind
argument
of
to shut
getting
me
there
down.
I was kind of getting there with the self-defense argument, because I'm one of the first to say that I don't think you can properly even call yourself a feminist if you're pro-gun control. A gun is the
Thank
one
you.
thing that can level the
That can-
playing
exactly.
field
And
if a
protect you,
male
yeah.
attacker comes at you.
Yes, absolutely. But note what I did when I made my
Oh,
defense.
yes.
I attacked emotion with emotion. You attacked my emotion with logic. It doesn't work. Right?
We have to
have
constantly
attack
remind
emotion
ourselves
with
that,
emotion.
yes, most normies
Yes.
are not, yes, they're emotional.
Yes, you have to attack emotion with emotion. And if someone says, "Oh my God, you care more about but this and that," and I go, "Oh, so you care more about another woman being intimidated in our nation again? You care more about that? That's what you want." So not only are you someone who's a statist, but you're also misogynist too.
and
I'm
you
serious.
probably deny climate change.
Yeah, you have to attack emotion
Yeah,
with
I
emotion.
probably voted for Trump, and I'm just some hick. I'm probably super racist too.
True,
Well,
true.
You're getting
got
at
your-
something
Yep.
key here, which is that libertarians tend to be, or at least think of themselves as very rational thinkers who like logical
Yes.
arguments.
Yes,
Yes.
very true.
Yeah. And so what we usually do, in our episodes here is we go through our platform, which of course is a very logical, rational argument, but we try to find the personal and the emotional in it. So for example, our platform has a section on self-determination where we say individuals have the authority to decide matters, including but not limited to their health, education, financial well-being, and self-defense. But that sounds so academic, right? So what we need to talk about to people is that the state criminalized a man's decision to manufacture the means of self-defense in his own home. He harmed no one, threatened no one, yet the state imprisoned him for 10 years for making personal decisions about his self-defense tools.
On the grounds that something he was making could be used in a crime in the future,
theoretically.
or could hurt
Could be.
someone.
Yeah.
And according to everyone who knows him personally, he was like a tinkerer.
Yeah, he was a nerd. He
he
this
wasn't
man
like this
had no
big.
criminal record. He was an
Yeah.
upstanding citizen. He was a net economic contributor. Had never harmed anyone.
He spent $40,000 and countless hours legally purchasing parts and skillfully assembling them. And then the state goes and seizes the fruits of his labor and his investment without compensation, and then they imprison him for creating property.
Yeah, but they tried to be slick too, though. That's the thing, is because they kept offering him plea deals, and the problem is with the plea deal, you're admitting that you're guilty of the charges that they're bringing against you, and it's a trap. It's a trap because they'll threaten you with 99 years in prison, but we'll only give you 2 if you sign the agreement. Okay, and
Right.
and it's a trap because now you've admitted, number one, that you're guilty of what they say you're guilty of, and that it makes their laws seem more legitimate, even though they're violations of the Second Amendment.
Bob, you
So
said
many
something.
of these laws would not even be able to exist if it were not for the plea deal system, because the state would not have the resources to take every
prosecute,
single case to
This
trial.
is how
if they
you
had
fix
to.
it. You fix it very simply. Anytime a DA puts a deal in front of a client, they may not ask for any more at the end of a trial. Period. That should be a new law.
Mhm.
That should be it. Done. The reason is, if you believe the crime is as such that should be the punishment, why does it change because I exercise my rights?
Right.
You're
either guilty or you're not.
Default. Well, you are by default punishing me for my rights, which is unconstitutional. I have a right to a trial. That's what I have in the Constitution. If I exercise that right, you punish me. That is by default unconstitutional. Therefore, plea deals like that are by default unconstitutional. It doesn't matter because our judges suck. They're an embarrassment. They make me want to vomit. They're so bad.
Yeah, the judge in this case banned constitutional arguments and even interrupted the defense.
That's the thing. How can you have a constitutional right to a trial if the law of the land, specifically designed to guarantee you your natural rights, can't be brought up in a court of law?
Correct. Well, here's the problem, right? The problem is the judges are supposed to be loyal to the Constitution. They're not. They're loyal to the political parties because that's how they get elected, through political parties. That's why they're
and
loyal
who
to
is
that.
bankrolling these parties? I would not be surprised if a private prison company or the for-profit rehab industry, that the whole prison industrial complex, there is nothing preventing lawyers
the
and
prison industrial
judges
complex
from owning
isn't that
stock
bad in
in
New
these
York State.
companies.
The prison
That
industrial
statement
complex
should-
is not that bad in New York State. There's other states where it's worse. When it comes to New York, it isn't that bad.
Yeah,
That
compared to other
statement-
states, yes. New York is just highly hostile to Second Amendment rights in general.
Correct.
But shouldn't that statement have been an automatic mistrial? And how did that not happen?
Because judges say, this is the problem. You ask, they'll tell you this. They'll say, Larry, because I've asked judges this, Larry, our job is to follow the law. And I go, no, it isn't. That's not your fucking job. Your job is written to interpret the law, not to follow. The executive branch is supposed to follow the law. They don't. And the judge is supposed to interpret the law. They don't. What actually happens is the executive branch interprets the law and the judicial branch follows the law. And it's reverse. You're supposed to be, as a judge, the guy who goes, that's stupid. No, that's not constitutional. No, they don't. And they will tell you literally, no, we have to follow the law. No, you don't. You made that up. The judges made that up to protect themselves. If a judge right now has to run for office, the judge will tell you, I can't comment on X, Y, and Z. They tell you all the time, I can't comment. Why not? Well, I can't. That's bullshit. They made that up. Now, how do I know that? Because if you're going to be in a Supreme Court, they ask you, how will you vote on Roe v. Wade? How will you vote on it? They have to answer. Mm-hmm. So I know they made it up. If you go to the Supreme Court, you have to answer that question. So why can't you answer it here? Because you made it up and we accept it. No, our judges in our state are an embarrassment. Our judiciary is an embarrassment. That is why there's no punishment. To answer your question, because they're an embarrassment. They should. We need a purge of our judges. I'll say it publicly. I don't care.
Oh yeah,
we need a purge.
It's
they
more
are
than just the
terrible.
judges, though. We've got surveillance of legal behavior from the federal government, right? The ATF. Yep. We've got criminalization of victimless actions. We've got pre-crime logic, right? They're punishing potential future harm, things that might have happened, Then there's the rejection of constitutional limits on state power, with the judge declaring the Bill of Rights doesn't exist here.
Yep.
Then we've got a maximum security prison sentence for exercising fundamental rights. Not even to mention the fact that, they use a violent enforcement mechanism, to throw this guy in a cage. I mean,
right.
But I have to touch this here. This is an important piece.
Oh.
They've said literally, this is why they made a law that says if a gun is involved, it doesn't matter how, it is by default a violent crime.
Right.
If a baseball bat is involved, is it by default a violent crime? No. If a hammer is involved, is it by default a violent crime? No. Only if a gun is involved is it automatically violent. How is that constitutional? And our judges go, yeah, that makes sense because I'm an idiot and I don't care and I just follow the rules, because if I don't, I won't get elected, because my party will make sure I can't keep my seat. I'll actually have to run opposed instead of unopposed, or I won't get selected for my next level. That's why I'm going to say yes to something that's clearly arbitrary, clearly unconstitutional, and I should have thrown this law in the shit can as soon as it came in front of me, but I won't do it.
Sounds like an issue of a one-party state. Sounds
Yes,
like
it
there needs to be
does,
some
doesn't it?
competition.
Well,
What's the standard for involved? Like a gun, what, someone was holding a gun that they
Yes.
did not use? It was unloaded?
Yes.
It was just in the background? It was in their house at the time of the
I'm not
crime?
even done with this, Rose.
It could be in your
New
trunk.
York State. Yes, in New York State,
Yep.
the gun doesn't have to be loaded to be loaded.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
Literally,
it's counted
if
as a
it-
loaded gun, even if it's unloaded in your trunk. Because who was
Yes,
that guy that was
correct.
arrested?
Like
Locked away in a
The
safe,
one guy that
right?
was arrested for that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So it's
Yeah.
worse than you say, Rose. It's worse.
In Saratoga County 2 years ago, we actually helped this woman. I got Jim Ostrowski out here to get her off the hook. Her ex-boyfriend came into her house. They did not live together. He was beating her up, and she pistol whipped him with an unloaded gun. And she caught a weapons charge.
Yep.
So what is the standard for self-defense in a case like that?
You
There is-
don't get
Right?
to defend
He's
yourself.
in her
You
house.
don't get to.
You should have been able to shoot him.
New York State
Yes.
castle doctrine says that you do not have a duty to retreat if you're in your house. In theory.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
theory.
yeah. That's what it says. But name a single judge that's actually going to enforce that.
Can a
Well-
state
Zero.
just opt
Yeah.
out of the Bill of Rights?
Yeah.
Is that
Just-
what's happened
yeah.
here?
Yeah, but
As
worse
I
than
said,
that.
it's
It
the Bill
has.
of Suggestions. It's not the Bill of Rights. It's the Bill of Suggestions. That's what it is.
Hey, Larry, you've met Bernie Getz, right? I mean, you met him back in
I have.
2018, right?
I did.
Here's the guy that they dragged through the courts for, 2-3 years, okay, because he shot those kids that were basically robbing and attacking everyone on the train. And they used the process as the punishment. And you've met him.
Correct.
He's the sweetest, quietest guy you ever saw. He didn't want any trouble, but they use that. Like I said, the process is the punishment. So not only will they threaten you, they'll try to get you to agree to basically give up the truth for their lie, but then they use that court, stretched out thousands of dollars or even more in court
Here is the
fees
answer
and
for
legal
this.
fees.
Here is the answer for this. When you become governor, you do two things. Number one, you make a very simple announcement. In New York State, you are allowed to defend yourself. Period. You say that. You just say those words, because here's most people don't know this. When you go to court, you don't get to decide how you defend yourself. That's not how it works. The judge decides how you defend yourself. I'm not joking. So I literally do consulting for defense attorneys. That's how I know this. That's how I know Dexter Taylor. I know his lawyer. That's how I know these people, right? So literally what happens is I go to, Karyn, you get arrested for pistol whipping your ex-boyfriend, right? I'm your lawyer and I go, hey, judge, we're going to do self-defense. The judge goes, yeah, nah, you can't do self-defense. I'm not joking. The judge decides if you can or can't. And if I do decide, he will sanction me. So if I do it anyway, he will sanction me. He will punish me and maybe even threaten my license if I give you the defense that you want. The judge decides. That's how it works. You go, no, you can't do self-defense. You can't.
Wow.
Yes, that's how it. If I'm doing it live, people can tell me that I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm right. A judge decides if you can or cannot. So first thing the governor must say is you are allowed to defend yourself. This way, when that happens, we can sanction the judge for stopping that. Otherwise, we cannot. Second thing, immediately when the governor comes into play, he must have a blanket pardon in advance. If you can have if you can arrest them because things that might happen, I'm going to pardon on things that might happen. And here's my pardon. And because of the Second Amendment, any possession charge by default is pardoned, because any possession law is by default unconstitutional. And therefore, as governor, it is pardoned automatically. Right. Any possession charge is automatically pardoned. Simply apply, you are pardoned immediately. Automatic blanket. You do that, you will watch the entire system turn. Why do I say that? Right now, New York State is in no way going to change Second Amendment laws at all. There's no push to change anything, no push to repeal the SAFE Act, no push to get rid of stupid ghost gun laws. If anything, New Yorkers want more gun laws. If anything, there's no push to anything.
I
do you
worry
reboot
about this.
that?
I really worry because if the state can
Yes.
surveil and prosecute you for buying legal products that could be used to create something illegal, like these ghost guns, where does that end, right? I mean, fertilizer
Doesn't.
can make bombs, cars can be used to run people over. You can
I mean,
use pressure
they already
cookers,
do
right?
it with their meth laws. Like if you buy precursors that might be able to be used to make a meth lab, you
You
can
buy
end up on a watch
NyQuil.
list.
You buy
Yeah.
NyQuil, you have to fill out your forms. It's like
yeah.
unbelievable.
Sudafed. Yes, Sudafed.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right.
Imodium.
Yeah,
But
you
let
have
me
to
ask
sign
you
it out.
guys,
It's not
what-
technically controlled, but if you're caught buying too much, you end up on a watch list and you could find yourself being raided.
And this
But-
is my point. Possession
these
is not a
precedents that-
crime.
right.
Right.
Possession is not a crime.
But
And it
what
should
is-
never be one.
What is the libertarian alternative here really arguing for? Are we saying that we need to wait for people to make meth and run people over with cars and explode pressure cooker bombs and make ghost guns and sell them to criminals before they can
Yes.
be prosecuted?
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. There is there is a middle ground. And the middle ground is they are actively taking steps to do so, not talking about it. They are actively making steps to do so. Like you find the meth lab. You see them selling the gun before they go shoot people, right? Like you see them taking act. That's what you're supposed to be worried about. You see them taking the physical action to do the thing. Then yeah, like if I see 7 guys walking into a bank with shotguns and masks on, I can arrest them before they rob the bank.
Remember
So,
the
If I
FBI's
see
favorite
them
statement,
with
right?
shotguns
He was
and
on
masks
our radar.
Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. So, like, if someone is assembling guns and they're actively making threats towards people, like
Correct.
posting on social media, these people are gonna pay because I hate. Like, that might be grounds to at
Yes.
least have your eye on them or take further steps. However, if they have no history of violent behavior, they're not doing anything illegal. There's no indication that they might not. It's probably
So in the Dexter
Wait,
Finger
hold on.
case,
kicking down their
they-
door
Threatening,
at
I want to
4
be very
a.m.
clear on
and
this.
arresting them.
Threatening is a crime.
Right.
Yeah.
If I say I'm mad at the world, that's not a threat. I think these people should die. That's not a threat. I'm going to go get her. That's a threat.
Mhm.
That's a crime. I don't have a problem with that. I should not be saying I'm going to go get this person and I'm making guns. I don't have a problem with that. That's a threat. You should not do that. Right? I'm not okay with that. That's how boyfriends kill girlfriends every day in this country. Right? I'm not okay with that. But if I just want to make guns or something, why do I care?
Well, the other thing is missing a part about the law is that it also requires intent. Okay, that's a crucial part of the law. Is that you don't, not just that you're doing something, is that you're doing something for a specific purpose, which is unlawful. All right,
And
so
that's the problem. These laws are so vague. Like, he did not realize he was breaking any laws because assembling these parts and obtaining them was not explicitly illegal. Like, that's a problem when you don't even know if what you're doing is illegal. Like, I mean, it's been said before, I think the 3 felonies a day thing actually was debunked. However, there are so many laws on the books that are not usually enforced until somebody wants to enforce them.
Well,
So-
there's 2 parts to that. 2 parts. Number 1 is that's the goal. The goal is for us all to be criminals so that whenever I target you, I can put you away.
Precisely.
Right?
If they
So
want to
it's
find
targeting.
something on you, they can find something. And that's,
Correct.
yeah, exactly.
Show me the
You're
man,
bound
I'll
to
show
run
you the
afoul
crime.
of a law at some point. If you've ever gotten money under the table or something, if you've ever sold something without a license, you haven't paid and you're not reported to the IRS, yeah, there's always something that they can find just in your
Absolutely.
day-to-day interactions with people.
New York is
There's a-
especially silly, though. I was once
Yes.
carded for a can of whipped cream. I told the cashier I was going to do whippets with it anyway. What are they going to do? Are you going to send, the DEA to my house and take
They
my
might.
you're on a list.
They might.
On
Karen
the
might
whipped
be on
cream
the
list.
right
Was
now.
that because of the state, or is it just the grocery store wanting to avoid liability or
For a
something?
brief moment, that was a state law.
Okay.
You
Maybe
might
raised
have
an
to
take that
interesting
with-
point there. Hold on a second, because in
No, they
Ancapistan, wouldn't we have insurance, and wouldn't insurance want things like trackable serial numbers on guns and all kinds of stuff to make it easy to sort things out, like your whipped cream can? I don't know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if they would, you would still have an option. There wouldn't just be one. There would be gun manufacturers who would do that, and there'd be those who wouldn't, and you'd be able to make your own. And if you feel more comfortable with those firearms, you should buy them. I'm not against people having serial numbers on firearms, but
Right.
you should decide that, hey, I'm a good person. I care about that. I want to buy a gun with a firearm. I'm with a gun with a number on it. Okay, you do you.
Or
If
you
you
want
Precisely.
an insurance policy.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you'll
You're
maybe
not
you'll
gonna get
get
one.
cheaper on it. Yeah, maybe you'll get a cheaper insurance policy. There'll be someone who will insure everything. There will be an insurance policy for everything because insurance is a great way of making money. But you'll probably pay more if you don't have numbers in your guns. And you'll
Yeah.
make that decision. You'll say, you know what? I don't care. I'll pay more, but I
Right.
don't want to have
You're
numbers on
gonna
my
want
guns.
you're gonna want liability insurance of some type. Yeah, most insurers, before they'll sell you the policy, they're going to say, okay, we see that you are a hobbyist who enjoys assembling guns. We're going to need to see some evidence that these guns are kept in a safe location and that you're using them
Sure.
responsibly because we
Right,
don't
but then the
actually want to have
market-
to give a six-figure payout.
The market decides. Okay,
Precisely.
that's not the government deciding, and that's the big
Correct.
difference here.
So we don't think that the government knocking down the door at 6 a.m. would be the libertarian solution, right? So how
Again,
would
it was done on purpose so that they could. You see what I'm saying? It's done as
Yeah.
punishment. It's
What-
done
what
so
I'm-
that
They
everybody
do this
would know.
to make they always have to make an example out of someone.
I
So
agree.
the
But what
advantage
I'm
is that
asking
everyone-
for is if
Right.
libertarians in a libertarian society were like, hey, we think this guy is building an arsenal in his building and we'd like to find out, whether that's a threat to the rest of the neighborhood, how would we handle that? What would it look like? What would we do?
The way you do it is you want to do it as safely as possible. It just goes, this is David Koresh all over again, right? He went shopping, right? He didn't live in his house. He went shopping. Get him on the way to the store. Done. Right? David Koresh went out jogging, literally outside his compound, jogging. Get him while he's jogging, right? You can still get the guy. You don't have to destroy his family. It's not required. If he's the bad guy, supposedly, awesome. He goes to whatever, CVS to get some cough medicine or whatever the hell he does, right? So when he goes there, you arrest him on his way to CVS and then question him and see if he's the bad guy you think he is. If you think he is, you get a warrant, right? Because you find probable cause. Oh, he is the bad guy, right? That we think he is. You get a warrant. You search his house. And you go, oh, wait a minute. He is making the arsenal. And here is the threats that he's going to go, the list of people he's going to go kill or whatever. Okay, you got him. He's a bad guy. You put him away. Or you arrest him. You realize maybe he's not the right guy. Let him go. Or you arrest him, get a search warrant, go and check. Oh, wait a minute. He's not doing anything wrong at all. Sorry about that. Off you go.
Yeah.
Right,
So
that-
hanging
this
a
is-
bunch of guns in a coat closet like suits. That's how they were described, and I saw in the video. That's what they look like. They're hanging from like coat hangers, basically. But does society or the state or neighbors have a right to force someone to store their guns in a way that they approve of?
I think there could be laws based upon who owns the building. I think you could have that. Yes, it wouldn't be a law.
The
but it
landlord
could be a
could
rule,
say
right?
no guns. I mean,
Yes.
Right. Landlord
Or- or
technically
the-
could say that. You
the
could
la-
choose whether to live there.
The landlord might not be able to say no guns in theory because there may be an issue with the right to defend himself. But the landlord could say, look, I'm in a building. You got kids in this building too. They screw around and go into people's apartments. You need to have a safe in my place. And if you don't, I'm going to fine you.
That's probably how it
That's-
would work because
that's totally
they
fine.
have insurance. So the person with the insurance policy or who sold them the insurance policy would say, okay, people can have guns in your apartment complex, but again, we don't want to give a payout, so we're gonna need some evidence that they are properly
Yes.
keeping them locked up. So we're gonna do maybe
Right.
a once a year inspection and
Hold on,
But
so
that
forth.
wouldn't be government. That would be, look, if you had a
Precisely.
hardcore guy who's like, dude, I don't care, have whatever you want, then you could put a machine gun in your house if you want to. But again,
Precisely,
the
if they
people
would
who
just
move-
be, they have very high premiums, or it would be an at your own risk situation, and there's no
exactly,
insurance.
which means a lot of people probably wouldn't want to move into that building.
Mhm.
Right?
I would.
If you
That begs
know
the
you're moving
question.
that building and a guy's got machine guns, you might be afraid of that guy because some people are afraid of guns. And if
Well,
you're
guys-
afraid of guns, you wouldn't move into that building.
Guys, let me
I
ask you
might,
this.
actually.
Wait a second. I almost hesitated to go here, but what you just said made me think we have to. In a libertarian society where people are allowed to associate with whoever they want, what about the racial justice angle? So like, I don't want any black people in my building with guns. So only the black people are not allowed to have guns. Is that cool in a libertarian building or?
Is it
Weird.
cool? What do you mean by this?
According to
things that-
That was
libertarian
a weird way of
principles.
it. No, it's not cool at all. That's for
No.
damn sure. It's not cool.
Right.
It's not
what you
good. This
mean,
is
though.
one of those things like technically, yes, someone could do that. However, we would be well within our rights to say, hey, that guy is a terrible person. Not only will I not live in his apartment, I will never do business or associate with this person because being racist is not cool. Like,
or anyone who lives in the apartment.
right, because someone who chooses
You
to live
shun
in an
them all.
apartment complex like that is probably
They were
not
okay
going
with
to be a good person.
I'm just thinking about it like this. Taylor's a black man, and historically gun control in America was about disarming black people, right? Slave codes, the black codes, 20th century Saturday night special laws targeting the cheap guns in black neighborhoods.
The Black Panthers, yeah.
Yeah, right. So think about it. A black man in New York builds guns, maybe to defend himself. I don't know, whatever. But, the state makes it nearly impossible to get a license. I think there was a 4% chance that he actually would have been able to get one.
Mhm.
And then the state imprisons him for 10 years. Meanwhile, you've got white gun owners here in upstate who, I don't know, probably have arsenals and face no scrutiny, right? So,
Sure.
I just felt it was worth bringing up.
And the interesting part is, what if it wasn't an apartment? What if he owned his own property? So what happens then? Because again, does the state can the state play the same game? And then what would happen? Because I was telling before we got online, I was telling Dan about the Gibson guitar case. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but the government sent 40 people with machine guns to take all of Gibson's guitars because they supposedly illegally imported rosewood from India, even though they purchased it on the open market. So again, it's like a ridiculous. There's no crime that the government will not use massive.
There's a thing you got to recognize
clearly,
here. There's an issue
clearly
here.
they were depriving some other business of their ability to make a profit. There must be strict
No. We have to realize
import
something.
limits on rosewood for a reason, clearly. Or
They
maybe, what if
have
it
to
had
make sure-
parasites and they introduced an invasive species or something?
They have to make sure they're using all of these assets they've gotten from the government. That's
Well, of
the
course.
reality.
I mean,
if
yes,
they're
of
if
course
they're
that's
not
the reality.
using SWAT teams, then why do they have SWAT teams? If they're not using these things, they're going to lose them. That's why they cannot wait for a reason to deploy their armored cars and SWAT teams, because we're paying a lot of taxpayer dollars for them to have that. So if they don't use it, they're going to lose it.
I mean, that's the
for
real
the
reason.
safety of
However,
our
they have
brave
to have
public
something that they
servants.
can cite as a reason for action. Yes, of course, that's the real reason. They need to they need to justify their budget. They need to justify their jobs. They have to have something they can point to that you're technically in violation of as an excuse to make arrests and raid your property and take out their armored tank that they got from the military surplus.
Never forget Peanut.
Oh,
That's right, Peanut. That's right.
too many people have forgotten Peanut.
It's sad. It's very
It was our
sad.
first episode that we ever did.
Aren't they suing? I believe they're suing the state.
Well, of course, and they're
I
going
hope
to
so.
win.
Fairly-
It's
Fairly
especially,
recently.
especially now that the evidence has come out that this was premeditated. They went in there to kill those animals.
Well,
So
it's-
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
It
But
just goes to show you
it's
cannot trust the state to exercise its authority responsibly without
Or to have
hell of
restraint.
oversight. Yeah.
Right. They're supposed to use their discretion, but do they? No, they're more interested in that easy arrest that's been served up to them on a silver platter because, they want to make as many arrests and have that's how you get promotions if you're working for the state. Prosecutors want to get as many convictions as they can. That's whether or not you were actually guilty is secondary to whether or not they get that win.
Is there more to this, though? I mean, why would it be in the interests of a state to control the ability to manufacture and possess firearms?
why?
Well,
Well-
why do we want people having firearms? Why do we have the Second Amendment in the first place? I think that's what we need to address first.
Well, we've talked about
Because we have
defending
gone from
yourself,
being the
but there's
rebel
more
to being
than
the
that.
empire. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's not just about defending your home. There's a little more to it than that.
of course not. It's about defending yourself from a repressive authoritarian government, but we're not supposed to know this, and that's the last thing the state wants. They don't want a
State can't
population
stand it,
capable of saying no to government overreach.
Well, when we
True.
can't say no peacefully, like I think in the Dexter Taylor case, there was some discussion of jury nullification, and I think the judge actually threatened the jurors with consequences of not
Oh,
convicting.
yeah.
Correct. The judges in New York State, again, I do this. Like, judges literally say that jury nullification is not real. You can't do it. New York State judges tell the jurors that jury nullification is against the law. You can't do it. Do not do it. They tell the jurors that just because you script the law, you still must convict if they did. They tell them that. That is how it works. As I
It's
say
a
1,000
lie.
times,
Right.
our judges
Trial.
are an embarrassment. They're
Right.
an embarrassment. And the problem is they judge themselves. So who's going to tell them they're wrong when they all believe it?
Yeah.
Right. If you get called for jury duty and you give any indication that you even know that jury nullification is a thing that exists, you're probably not going to make it onto
You're not
the
getting
jury
on.
in the first place.
You're not getting
And
on.
if you do make it onto the jury, like if you're giving indication that you're going to vote not guilty, there's like odds are high you're going to get dismissed. If you show any indication that you know what jury nullification is.
True.
Yeah. So it rarely even gets to the stage where you can nullify.
True.
But yeah, courts do not like it when a jury refuses to convict, even in the face of evidence that the person was technically guilty.
Authoritarians don't like being, stopped by average citizens. Yeah,
They don't like checks on their power.
exactly. Nobody likes to have their authority threatened. I mean, hey, you might actually have some free thinking going on, and that's a bad thing. You can't have
We
that.
cannot have that, okay?
No,
Robert, we can't have that, okay? Get a hold of yourself here. Get a hold of yourself. All right. So,
that annoying Constitution, right? Who was it that said that? It was like the annoying Constitution and the nine. What was it? There was that comment about the Supreme Court. The 9 people that are in the way. Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
This is typical New York, and that's the sad part. Is there's no, at this point, there is no bringing New York back from this until something drastic happens.
Well, I mean, this case is about more than.
We should all be shocked, and we're not even a little bit.
No, it's
Yeah.
No,
Unfortunately,
people
we've
who
all
are
lived
New
here
York
long
natives
enough,
we're used to this. Yeah, like
Yeah, but the
We
more
lived
and
here all
more and
of our
more we
lives.
get used to this, the more they get away with. I mean,
uh-huh.
this whole case, it's about whether the state can surveil your legal purchases, criminalize your hobbies, reject your constitutional defenses, and then throw you in a cage for victimless behavior while calling it public safety, right? So at what point do we say enough is enough? I mean, when do New Yorkers, especially gun owners, but all of us generally, stop complying with unconstitutional laws? When do we stop treating the state's bullshit as legitimate authority?
I will tell you when.
Hmm.
When they believe that someone in leadership is actually going to back them up.
Yes.
When they honestly believe that. Until then, all you do is go to jail. That's all you do. Resisting now is stupid, which is why people don't do it.
Well, it's
because
futile.
all that's going to happen, yes,
Right. If you
is
try,
because
they
you're
make an
just going
example
to
out of
jail. That's all that's going to happen. No one's going to back you up. No governor's going to defend you. No mayor's going to defend you. No congressman's going to defend you. Nobody in power is going to defend you. Why would you?
Right.
When
you have
they
to hope
honestly
maybe
believe
it gets to a
that
federal
someone-
court.
And they're
do
not
you
going
think
to
a
defend you
federal
either.
court is actually going to do anything? I mean, after Bruin,
Probably
Taylor had a real
not.
shot.
You have to hope maybe years down the line it'll get to a federal court. But yeah, by then, okay, you've been in jail for years.
So why would you wreck your life?
Precisely. No one's going to. No, you need to have reason to believe someone's going to back you. Either that or you need some critical mass of the population
Correct.
to stop complying. But that, yeah, I mean,
The problem is that
all
this
the way
guy,
back to being
this
an
guy
elementary
didn't
school
want
kid.
to be a martyr.
to-
Like that was not his plan.
Right.
He was just some guy who liked to mess with
Yep.
weapons and create his own firearms, and had no idea that the state was going to come down on him.
Right.
Like a tank in Tiananmen Square. I mean, that's like, and now he's in this situation. The question is there anything we can do? Because again, we're all members of the New York State Libertarian Party. Like, can we file amicus briefs, or can we, get involved and hopefully move this to the federal court where it gets it out of the literally corrupt? And I will say this to every judge in New York: you're corrupt, period. Don't want to hear it. You know what you're doing. You know you're doing it on purpose. So basically, every case needs to be elevated to the federal level to even have a microscopic chance of having sanity prevail.
I'm going to give you the answer. You're going to vote Larry Sharpe for governor so I can pardon him. Done.
Right. This needs to be kept at the forefront of the news, I think. And I mean, the Republicans are supposed to be the pro-gun party. I have not heard anything. I have not heard them mention this case. I think, we need to keep this at the forefront. We need to keep everyone's attention on this, and we need to see if we can get them to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking like the National Republican Association? Yeah. They've done
right.
for gun
rights. They like
yeah.
to pretend that they support gun rights. Let's see if we could. Okay, wouldn't it be embarrassing for them if the Libertarian Party was the one that was talking about an obvious miscarriage of justice, a person that was wrongfully imprisoned for exercising his Second Amendment rights? Wouldn't it be embarrassing to them if they weren't the ones talking about it?
Mm-hmm.
They don't care.
So,
well, who was the one that last time he ran, Larry? The Gun Owners of America? Which was the one
GOA actually backed me.
Yeah.
I like GOA.
Yeah.
Gun Owners of America actually, the NRA wouldn't even rank me.
Yeah. Which is, again,
not a Republican.
it tells you all you need to know about them.
Yeah, I'm not a Republican. They wouldn't even rank me.
Yeah.
Right.
Only GOA did.
And that's the thing. At least they had enough people who were actually intellectually honest about it.
True.
And yeah, whenever people start talking about how this Republican and that Republican for gun rights, it's like you're talking to the wrong people. It's like they're not going to back you up. You look at what happened on Long Island. Okay, how many of the quote unquote Republican legislators voted for the SAFE Act?
Yes.
It was probably the NRA that helped write it. They helped write a lot of these.
Yes.
A lot of these gun control laws.
It's a mess.
Absolutely.
So, Larry, I think you did a good job offering a potential solution to this, but I want to expand on how people can help you potentially become governor. Care to explain what our listeners might do to bring about?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. LarrySharpe.com is the answer. I've been talking about this for 8 years. It is a challenge. And for those of you who followed me for years know that in 2018, we had a great campaign. We kicked ass. We got a bunch of stuff done, and we had a lot of success in 2019. After the laws changed and the lockdown, I think we all know the party was wrecked. It's a fact. Wrecked, torn to pieces, civil war, horrible problems. It did not go well. 2022, I tried again, but we just didn't have the juice to do it. We still raised $500,000 the first time. We raised $500,000 in 2022. It all went to courts. I was in court 8 times. I mean, it was just a disaster. And we got our ass kicked. 2022 was a disaster. And I accept responsibility for that. That's what happened. I'm trying to rebuild it this time for 2026. I'm bigger, smarter, faster than I've been before. So that's one good thing. At least I know what I've been through already. We'll raise a bunch of money again. We'll raise $500,000 again easily. But here's the difference. Now we have matching funds. Now, some of you libertarians don't like matching funds. I get it. But it is the way to success, like it or not. The reason why Mom Donnie won, people don't realize why he won, is because New York City does 8-to-1 matching funds. New York City gave him $8 million. That's why he's the mayor. You can say whatever you like about it or not. If New York State gives me $3 million, I'm telling you, I will be governor of New York. That's how that works. I'm not exaggerating. I will promise that I will bet any of you any amount of money you want. If I get look what I did with $500,000. I am already polling in the most recent polls that they did, the Republicans did, I'm polling at 8% already. I haven't started my campaign hardly at all, and I'm polling at 8%. Right. That's the highest I've ever polled. That's insane. If I am able to get 5,000 New Yorkers to give me a total of $500,000, New York State will give me $3 million. With $3 million, I will easily get ballot access. It'll be a joke, and I'll easily raise another $5 million. When that happens, the rest of the country will go, holy shit, Larry can beat Elise, which will be true. I will beat Elise at that point. If I get matching funds, she has no chance of beating me. Zero chance of beating me. That means the Republicans coming in third. Once the Republicans recognize they're coming in third, they will abandon Elise. How do I know that? They just abandoned Curtis Sliwa.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just saw it happen. When they recognized their boy might come in third, they abandoned him. And Sliwa was a diehard Republican and a hardcore New York City guy who literally was shot for New York City. I'm not joking. Literally shot 5 times for New York City. And the New York State GOP abandoned him. They will abandon Elise and throw all the money behind me. That's why I'm saying I'll become governor of New York.
Yeah,
Literally,
Right. I mean,
Trump alternative.
right.
So
no matter,
there
no
are
matter
actually
how,
2 ways
oh.
things you can help. Number 1, get people know I'm running. Let people know I'm running. That means I need legitimacy. Tell people, share stuff, volunteer for me, get online, do all those things. Number 1. And number 2, donate. If you live in New York State, donate anywhere between $5 and $250. That's how much they match. So donate anywhere between that number, between $5 and $250. The best thing you can do for me is do monthly. Larry, I love you, so I can give you a cup of coffee every day. If that's what you think, that's about $100 a month. If you got that kind of cash, please give it. If you're like, I don't have that kind of cash, awesome. Can you give me a cup of coffee a month? That's $5 a month. Can you do that? Awesome. Still works. Doesn't matter. It still gets matched. $5 or more gets matched. So $5 is $30 every month. I can give you $25. I can give you a cup of coffee a week. $25. Great. $25 gets me $150. So yes, anything you can do, please do. Money counts, time counts, and volunteering counts. My biggest issue is legitimacy. Once they see me as legitimate, now I'm winning. That's all I care about. If they attack me, good. They think I'm bad, good. I don't care. Let me have to go on TV and explain why I'm so selfish. That would be amazing. I would love that. Let me go do that. I'm happy to do that. Anyway, that's what I want. Thank you so much, Dan, for giving me that shot. Thank you.
Yeah, no, there is obviously like an appetite now for outsiders, for something different. Like, regardless of how people feel about Mamdani, like he did show people want something different. They're sick of the establishment. So, yeah, we have an opportunity here.
By the way, I had him on my show 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I knew he was a player back then.
It's your fault.
It is I warned them about him. I told them he'd be a player. Maybe I did. I warned them that he'd be a player years ago because he's my assemblyman.
People want somebody who recognizes the actual struggles of everyday New Yorkers. Okay, things like out of control rent, unaffordable bills. Okay.
True.
We need to be able to
the
talk
problem
to
is
people
he's
and
lying about the solutions. So.
Right.
Yeah, well, their solution is we'll just give you free everything.
They're real problems. The problem is, the solutions are, they've got their cause and effect reversed, and the solutions that they're proposing are not going to resolve the issues. They're likely to make things
They're not
worse.
going to happen. The solutions won't happen.
Of course.
Also
true. Let me wrap things up because I think we've pretty thoroughly covered the Dexter Taylor case. But just to bring it back to the tragedy here, a man is sitting in maximum security prison tonight because he exercised rights that the Constitution explicitly protects. And a judge told him that those rights don't exist in New York. And the state calls this justice. Well, our platform warns that government will inevitably grow more tyrannical if left unchecked, and that it is the responsibility of citizens to actively restrain the government. Dexter Taylor is restraining the government by appealing, but he shouldn't have to do it from a prison cell. If you believe this is wrong, and if you're listening to this show, you probably do, here's what you can do. First, you can support Taylor's legal defense. There is a Give, Send, Go campaign for his legal fees. This case is going federal, and that's expensive. Second, if you're in New York, obviously vote for Larry Sharpe for governor, because a state that imprisons people for this needs new leadership. Third, spread the story. The mainstream media largely ignored it. Gun right groups covered it a bit, but most New Yorkers have no idea this happened in their own state. So tell people, make them uncomfortable, force them to confront what public safety really means. And fourth, and this is controversial, so stick with me, if you're a gun owner in New York facing these unconstitutional laws, you have a choice. You can comply, disarm, and hope the government leaves you alone. Or you can do what Taylor did. Refuse to beg permission for your constitutional rights. Build your case and prepare to fight it in court. Taylor knew he might lose, knew he would lose in New York. He did it anyway. That's civil disobedience. That's how you restrain tyranny. The Libertarian Party of New York rejects the prosecution of Taylor. We reject the surveillance that led to his prosecution. We reject the idea that the Second Amendment stops at the New York border. We reject judges who declare constitutional rights non-existent. And we reject the notion that public safety requires imprisoning peaceful people. With that, this has been the Liberty Test. Dexter Taylor passed it. New York failed spectacularly. Good night.
Where will you be when the order is given to censor your mind as free speech is forbidden, as martyrs for peace from the world will be driven away by the sound of a bellowing thunder and choke on the blood of a dream going under? Tear up our Constitution, and from every direction we cry revolution, standing together and without permission, soldiers for truth in the war of attrition, the love of our country as our ammunition. I'm a long, long way from my home, and I'm going to change all the things I find strange, for I am not one man alone. Yes, I'm only a stranger. I'm a long, long way from my home, and I'm going to change all the things I find strange.